mean to treat gig workers as essential workers?
If you determine that people are so important that lockdown rules don't apply to them, they need to get to work, they need to keep everyone else safe. That means you should be providing them with basic things like personal protective equipment. You need to be providing them with tests availability. You need to be providing them with days off in the event that they're sick. I mean, these are the basic things that you'd expect. Yeah. And over time, the gig workers were given these things. So whether through the CARES Act, they were given the ability to access some unemployment benefits that way. And then some of the gig companies started responding, and they started doing things like allowing people to have sick days, which again, they didn't have before. But the gig workers are still complaining that they're hard to access them. It might be difficult for doctors to certify this for them, or they may have trouble accessing a test, and then they're told, well, you don't get access to the sick days if you can't access a test. If you're calling them essential workers, shouldn't they be getting the same rights as other employees who maybe aren't as critical to everything running during a pandemic?
During the election, one of the issues on the ballot was this measure that was proposed by gig companies called Proposition 22, which tried to override a California law that made gig workers employees. I was actually kind of surprised that California voted in favor of Prop 22. Were you surprised by the outcome?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, the polling wasn't great about what was going to happen. They had a very effective ad campaign. And the fact is that the gig company spent over $200 million, which is the most money that has ever been spent on the California initiative process. Yeah. So they were bombarding the electorate with ads. And some of it, frankly, was misleading. I think people thought they were doing a good thing for gig workers because there's some pieces in there that talk about, in Prop 22, that talk about non-discrimination. There's some pieces in there that talk about a minimum wage for the time that they spent on the clock. But it's definitely not what they had under AB 5, which was much better. Yeah. But, at the same time, the gig companies were threatening to pull out. Lyft had 2 weeks before said, if you force us to have employees, we're going to pull out of California. There's a lot to be upset about.
I am troubled by the idea that companies can just do an end run around legal rules by getting a law passed that just changes the law in their favor. On the other hand, I mean, people voted for it and there was lobbying. I mean, I feel like this stands in for everything that's complex and fraught about our democracy right now.
So I lived in California for about 4 years, and it always surprised me how many initiatives were proposed. Most of those initiatives failed. That most of these ballot propositions, people say, if the legislature didn't vote for it, and I voted for the legislature and I mostly agree with what they do, I'm not going to vote for these ballot propositions. But if you get one like this that has so much lobbying and so much money behind it, then obviously it increases its chances. And, some of the ads emphasize this will take away the driver's flexibility.
Yeah, I found that, I think that was a very effective form of messaging. And I think it is misleading to say, like, by voting for this, you're voting in favor of flexibility. There's no reason you can't have an employee, like a job, an employee status that's flexible. I mean, it's the employer that's deciding whether it's flexible or not. That has nothing to do with whether you have to pay the minimum wage.
And it's frustrating because meanwhile, I think a lot of drivers really could have used that $200 million.
Right. I mean, right. It's also just the notion that some of these companies, their entire business model is premised on avoiding legal regulation. I mean, that's their competitive advantage, is avoiding legal regulation. And then you're just going to reward them by making it possible for them to continue to do so.
Yeah, it's really problematic. I think the hope would be that if you have a really good service and you're able to connect everybody really quickly and really come up with something interesting and new, that you'd be able to do that and do it competitively. And you do it in such a way that everybody can make money and not be under minimum wage or not feel stressed out about paying for gas or whatever the circumstances are. I don't know. I mean, in the meantime, Uber has also drifted into investing in automated vehicles. And stage is beyond anything with this litigation. And, I kind of keep my eye on that a little bit because I think the transportation industry is definitely something on the horizon that I look at in terms of displacement of jobs. That's a major one. Like truck driving is a major occupational category, and it's on the
Yeah.
radar screen for being automated at some point.
Right.